am Donna, an online therapist from talkfeelchange.com, and today I'm going to be speaking about how to feel alive again. And I'm really making this vlog for anyone who is really rule-abiding and hard-working, but no matter how much you achieve, you still feel kind of empty at the end of the day. Like you are going through all the motions, but you're kind of living your life on autopilot. And you feel a bit empty inside. And for people who can't even remember the last time they felt true joy and true excitement, I want to kick this vlog off by getting you to ask yourself a question. Think back to your childhood for a second and think about if you were often referred to as a good child. Would that be something that would characterize how you were referred in your childhood? And just think about it for a second. I'll come back to it a bit later on in this vlog. Okay, so this vlog is about feeling alive again. So a good place to start would be to go back to what may have caused us to stop feeling alive in the first place. And to do that, I want to tell you about some of the findings of Donald Winnicott. So Winnicott noticed that a lot of parents and caregivers are unable to tolerate and to handle their child's bad behavior. And look, this can be for a whole number of different reasons. Sometimes it might be because the parent is going through postpartum depression, or they have to give a huge amount of their attention to another sibling because the other sibling is sick or needs it for another reason, and maybe the parent is a workaholic or has to work a lot in order to support the family. So whatever the reason is, the caregiver subtly demands and expects compliance from their very young child when their child is actually too young. They expect this compliance from too young of an age. And why would such a young child deny their instincts to be silly and mischievous? Because even as an infant, they can often sense that they need to comply with their caregiver in order to be loved. And complying can mean a whole bunch of different things depending on what the infant is sensing the caregiver needs. Basically, complying means being really good, and that can mean not being silly or selfish or angry or playful, and sometimes it could even mean being really cheerful for your caregiver even though you actually aren't feeling happy inside. Basically, complying means denying that very, very special and important time that we get in childhood to be fully ourselves. Children actually need the opportunity in their childhood to be demanding, aggressive, and even a bit selfish. And of course they can still express things like joy and kindness, but those are very easy to accept. Whereas it's much more difficult for a caregiver to tolerate a rule-breaking child or a screaming child. While rules and boundaries are so important, children, especially very young children, must also be given the chance to express some of these vital, more difficult forms of expression. So when a young child is forced to deny these instincts, then they develop what Winnicott referred to as the false self. And so the false self is a self that is very good and very outwardly compliant, but it's often experienced as a struggle and a lack of true happiness. And I'm sure that most of the caregivers would try their best to change this dynamic if they became aware of it. But most of the time, people just really aren't aware of this at all. And if you're struggling with any of the things that I mentioned at the beginning of this vlog, and if you were characterized as a good child in your childhood, then maybe you're struggling with some aspects of the false self. Okay, so where does that leave you? it is actually possible to replicate some of that time that you missed out on in childhood in therapy. With a good, understanding therapist, you're allowed to finally express some of these instincts that you had to suppress as a child. You're allowed to be selfish. A therapist doesn't expect you to ask about how my day was. You're allowed to be angry, lazy, unimpressive, playful, silly, and you don't have to feel guilty about that. And you don't have to go to a therapist to express these aspects of yourself, but usually it's a lot easier to do this with a therapist, or at least someone who has no expectations of you and no prior knowledge. And I think a therapist is usually the least judgmental person that you will find, because we've spent so much time studying and learning about all different aspects of humans and human emotions, including some of the deeper, darker aspects of ourselves and others. And so what a therapist usually understands as a normal person is usually a lot more inclusive of a huge range of complex emotions. So we won't be shocked and appalled if you show us these sides of you. We understand that it's normal and it's human. And really we became therapists to help and to nurture and contain and heal from that. So if you think that you and I could work well therapeutically together, or if you know of someone else who might benefit from therapy, please get in touch with me at talkfeelchange.com. Thank you.